This is the Super Rad BMX podcast. Down the first straight is the cruising Cornhusker over the jump bonsai Brad. Now your host Brad Fanshaw and Tim Lilladora.
On June 7th, 2025, family, friends, and fans gathered at Dirty Fest in Temecula, California, to honor and celebrate the life of Harry Leary. The memorial service was a touching tribute filled with heartfelt memories and moving speeches. Among those who spoke were Harry's mother, sister, BMX legend Eddy King, and several of Harry's former Team Diamondback teammates, all sharing stories that reflected Harry's passion, impact, and legacy in the world of BMX.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here this morning. Blessings to all of you. God the Father, thank you so much for being the creator of all things. That's scriptural. That's a wonderful thing. Without God, we wouldn't have earth, we wouldn't have dirt, we wouldn't have bicycles, we wouldn't have this sport, we wouldn't have all of this connectedness to all of these people that are sitting here right now. So thank you, Lord, for that. Thank you for Harry and all of the trials and all of the awesome things that Harry brought to this sport. But it's not always just one person, it's everybody. It's a connectedness and love, and that's a blessing. So thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
We've got some special people here in the house, and I want to introduce them to you and let you know. Sitting here to my right is Linda. This is Harry's oldest sister, probably the one that most can relate to Harry than anybody else on there. And next to Linda is his mom, Beverly. And believe it or not, this is Beverly's second race. Only the second race you've been to? Yeah. Unbelievable to think that Beverly's only been to one race, knowing that her son is like one of the top Mount Rushmore of BMX icons in the sport out here. So I think she might be a little overwhelmed and everything with the impact that Harry had with everybody here, I think. And then to the far right of me is Greg Mathias, who is a close friend of Harry for the last year and a half, his training partner, while Harry was still trying to seek that, 55 and cruiser title, whatever it was, on there. So a big thank you goes out to the people at Dirty Fest for letting us use their platform to bring a, celebration for Harry's life out here. And that goes big props to Miranda, James Vicente, and Eric Carter. And I think what we've got going on here really is becoming a cult almost. I like to think that this is almost the Woodstock of BMX, where everybody's going to come out every year and celebrate the sport of BMX. So it's a great event, I think, out here, and things have been going really well. I want to thank the BMX Hall of Fame with Dork for doing these poster boards that he did for us. I think they turned out pretty excellent. I think they turned out awesome, actually, on there. And Dork did a really good job. And if some of you remember, hopefully, well, let's change it up again here. I wanted to thank, if some of you haven't heard the podcast done by Rad Maddox, BMX Super Rad Maddox podcast from Tim Littlethorpe and Brad Fanshaw, please take a listen to it. It really kind of explains a little bit more in depth on exactly Harry and the more personal side to Harry that people don't know about. And I think they need to listen to it and to make their own conclusions from the end of that, I think. And because we only know Harry from a teammate side for 40 years, and it was pretty good on there. And before you leave, please take a look at everything here. There's a signing book over there. If you have a favorite memory or anything with Harry, please go over there and sign the book and leave a favorite story for us there. I'm going to leave it at that for the most part. I think that what I've got really to say is the fact that I went to a funeral about 20 years ago. And the one thing that I took away from that funeral was the fact that, you know, I always look at life at ending at 80 years old and that being kind of the finish line for everybody. And being that Harry was only 65, he was kind of cut short from being at the finish line. And I always looked at kind of, if you get to 80, you're there. Everything after 80 is kind of like a bonus. It's extra credit for the most part. And Harry's life was unfortunately cut just a tad bit short of the finish line, I think. And we all got to look at one another and be thankful and grateful that we're all here and we're back every year. We get to make more memories and everything, and count our blessings for the most part. You know, because like we talked about this morning, Jason, tomorrow's never guaranteed. You know, we wake up with new aches and pains and heartaches and everything else, and we lose addition to our friends, and sometimes we add additions to the family and everything. What Harry meant to me, I got to, you know, for 8 years for the most part, have the best teammate I could have, travel the country, make memories and stories, which a lot of them I can't tell you. They got to be undocumented, and they just need to be kept between me and him for the most part. But I think a lot of the team members have some of those documented memories that they could talk about for the most part. They're all sitting up here laughing and smiling. You know, those are some of the best things that we had with Harry. And Harry was a great leader for the team. You know, he led the team of a bunch of wild kittens, if you want to say that, for the most part. And they're all sitting here going, oh yeah. So those are my fondest memories with Harry, besides the ones that I can't tell you. You know, it's one thing winning on the track, it's another thing winning off the track. That's all I'll say, for the most part. But I miss the guy. You know, we've got a lot of good memories, and I always will remember the best memories I've ever had with him, for the most part. Racing with him, it was never me against him, it was us against the world. And we always looked at if he won, Diamondback won, or if I won, Diamondback won. And that's what we needed to do. So it is what it is, I guess. You know, but I miss him. And after that, I'll leave it here. You can talk.
Great. Hi, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming. It's so great to see these faces that I haven't seen. You guys were a lot younger back then, I'm telling you. So there was no recognition, just saying. But I'm sure you say the same about me. But I have to tell you, going through what I went through when Harry died was surreal. It was hard, but yet it was a beautiful moment for Harry and I. I had him cremated. I was the only one there, and I actually pushed the button and watched him go in. And the hardest thing I'd ever done, but the most beautiful thing I'd ever done. And there was a cardboard box, and I have to tell you this story. And they gave me a Sharpie, and I wrote on the cardboard box, and I wrote what I thought said, "Be at peace." Well, the box started going in, and it said, "P at peace." So Harry went into that fire with a note that said, "P at peace." I just hope he's at peace at this point in time in his life. But, you know, Harry and I grew up together very, very close. And I was always chasing Harry. Always chasing Harry. And it got harder and harder to chase him. And eventually he kind of just rode away. And now then he ended up with all y'all chasing Harry. So, but not having him around anymore is tough. It's like part of me is no longer there. There's an empty hole. But seeing everybody here really makes me very happy because, you know, there's a lot of things about Harry that people didn't like, a lot of things that were said about Harry, but ultimately, you know, you can't take away from that man what he accomplished, what he did, who he was. Yeah, he had his issues. Yes, he had his demons, but overall, he was a beautiful, wonderful person, and I will forever never be the same. and I will always miss him. But thank you all for coming. Eddy, I thank you for orchestrating this and getting this together. You're amazing. And the guys from RAD, love the podcast. You guys were amazing too. You made it easy. I wasn't even nervous. But again, thank you. And before I start crying again, I'm going to turn it over to Mom. Okay. Just a moment. You got to listen to her. She doesn't talk very loud. So.
I want to tell all of you how grateful I am that you've all come, and I've learned so much about my son that I didn't know before, and I appreciate that. He was an awesome child. He was a holy terror from the day he was born, and he gave me fits, and he never sat still, and that's how he led his life, never sitting still, always active. And as Linda said, I couldn't be a part of BMX because if somebody had knocked him over, I wanted to go on the track and beat you know what out of him, and I couldn't stand to see him lose his temper, so I didn't go that often. But as I will, I couldn't stand it. So, but I will say that Harry passed, and he took a part of me with him. I'll never have that. And I thank all of you. Bless you all.
His mom reminded me we spent the last year and a half together. He was my training partner for the last year and a half, and we did some epic training. That man was in shape at his age. He was just an animal. We had a lot of good times during that period, and I got to know him very well. He came over to my house and spent holidays over there with my family, and he was always very nice and polite to everybody, and he was just like a brother. He became a brother to me. I was probably the last one to see him alive. We trained on a Wednesday night, and he normally texted me every morning something, and Thursday morning, nothing. I've got the text messages, and I'm like, don't make me come over there and kick your ass. Nothing. Next day, nothing. And I think by Saturday, Linda called me, told me that he had passed away in his car. And it's just been devastating ever since. I'm starting to try to get over it, but it's a big hole to fill. Thank you all for coming out here. It means a lot.
You have to stand behind the box.
Hi, I'm Doug Davis. I was a teammate of Mr. Harry Leary from the time I was 11 years old until I was 18. I first want to start out by thanking Dirty Fest for having this event. It's amazing. It's amazing to see everybody here, and the care they have and the love they have for the sport. It's amazing. It really is. I want to thank Bev and Linda, Eddy, Patty, Greg, for all sharing their story about Harry and what he meant to them, what he meant to them. I want to start out by saying that Harry was one of the most influential people in my life as a young man. I joined Team Diamondback number 4. Harry was number 1. Mike Horton and my cousin, little Aaron Stevens, was number 3. And he took me in. He really did. He realized the importance of what a team meant and what it meant to be Harry Leary at that time. He was given a special opportunity to lead one of the most famous teams, in my opinion. I might be a little biased, ever to don a uniform in BMX. He took that responsibility along with Eddy very seriously. When people say that Harry was a BMX rider, he was a BMX rider and a great one. But Harry was also a great businessman. And what I mean by that is Diamondback was a very, very small company and a very small contributor to the sport of BMX before this team took to light. And Harry helped, along with all these gentlemen right here from Team Diamondback, John Copeland, Mike Horton, Jason Horton, Eddy King. Who am I missing? All of these gentlemen and the gentlemen that are not here built one of the largest businesses on their backs ever. And Harry represented Team Diamondback unbelievably at the track for the most part. He did. He knew the responsibility. He knew what he was building, and it was amazing. It really was. And he had a lot of guidance with Sandy. Sandy Finkelman was a huge influence on Harry, some good, some bad. And I love Sandy, and I love what he did for all of us. But Sandy and Harry and Eddie were the team leaders, and they led with dignity. They really did. I'm going to share a story real quick. My dad was a strong disciplinarian, thank God, and he shaped me in a lot of ways. But Harry, in a lot of ways, and Sandy were my father when I was away from my parents at these races. My parents couldn't afford to go to 37 or 38 nationals and do it the way Team Diamondback did it. So when I was at these races, occasionally, unfortunately, I would lose to Mike King. And I would not be too happy about that from time to time. And Harry would look at me and say, hey, listen, I don't want you to lose your temper. I don't want you to show that. I want you to go home and I want you to work harder. And I want you to be the person that you're supposed to be. And that was like unbelievable to me because it showed an unreal amount of care. It showed the fact that he cared, because Harry wouldn't sometimes act like that way. But he felt it necessary to always say, you know, listen, the professionalism, you have to show it. All these kids out here are looking at us, and they're depending upon us, and their parents are depending upon us to set the example. And I don't know if a lot of you know that he thought that way. He really did, and he treated us that way. I want to also say that there's been some stuff spoken about Harry in terms of his habits and such. I want to remember Harry today as the man that had excellent habits, because all of us make mistakes in life. I don't think there's one human being that I'm looking at out here that hasn't done something that they don't regret. And unfortunately, Harry's was amplified because of his name in the sport of BMX. And for that, I know that he is sorry when he's looking down here for some of the things that he had done. And I know that the man has an unbelievably compassionate heart. And I want to thank him. I want to thank all my team members of Diamondback for being a special part of each other's lives. And I want to thank the sport of BMX, and I know Harry Leary thanks the sport of BMX and all of you that are here as well. Thank you so much.
I wanted to go after Doug because what Doug was saying is I really wanted to echo it. When you guys look at these pictures of Harry, when you guys look at these pictures of Harry and you look at the cover of him on that turbo and that turbo ad that we watched him, you know, with the strings and the rip and the board that was under there, that bike was factory out of the box. That wasn't clean enough for him. So we jokingly were saying last night, before there was my Greek wedding with Windex, it was Harry Leary with Pledge. That guy with Pledge and a hotel towel, a bike could never be clean enough. But what it represented to all of us was his preparation, his organization, and as Doug was talking about, you know, for him being a big brother to us, because, you know, I was 10 years old, Doug was 11, and so when our parents weren't there, you know, Harry was our big brother. And Doug said it best, if you don't think that Harry was a loving, compassionate human being, the fact that I am still walking the earth and Harry didn't kill me because I was a handful as a 10-year-old is truly a statement that he loved us. And but I can tell you that, you know, as an adult, my toolbox, my motorcycles, my business, everything I do with my organizational skills was taught to me by Harry. And so when what you guys didn't get to see, if you saw Harry with his, I would say, unbelievable competitive drive, right? And what I always loved about Harry is that he did always tell Doug, don't do what I just did. Because if you're going to lose with dignity and grace and go and work harder. And then he would teach us how to prepare our bikes and prepare our equipment, and and all those things that he taught us at 10, 11, and 12 years old are the things that I carry at 56 years old to run my business. So I can't say enough nice things about the man. Miss him, love him very much, and very, very thankful for the opportunity to be here with my friends and teammates from years ago, and the things that Harry left us. And by the way, I was there at your first race, so I'm so glad I'm here for the second time.
Copeland, you got a story for us?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Hey guys, good morning. John Copeland. So glad everybody came out to recognize Harry. What a great person Harry was, a great teammate, and really the team leader. As me being a 14-year-old kid, I always looked up to Harry, Eddy, as the leaders of the team, and really that's what I take from Team Diamondback as such a special experience, was really learning how to be a professional. And Doug mentioned this, and really that's something I carried forward from Team Diamondback into my life. And there's a couple of things we know about Harry. He was a professional, first and foremost, determined, and the third thing we know about Harry, we all called him Turbo. So I wanted to share a story that I don't remember what tour it was on, but we were in Indianapolis, and Eddy doesn't remember this story, but us young men sneaking out from the hotel, we all decided to let's go to Indy Raceway. So we found a hole in the fence, grabbed our bikes off the Diamondback van, and rode around Indianapolis Speedway. So super, super fun. Many, many memories of that. You wouldn't believe how banked those turns are. But one thing I do remember is Harry's determination. When we got to the finish line, as you guys know, there's 3 yards of bricks from the original raceway. And Harry definitely wanted to take a brick home with him, or a piece of brick. So we finally got to the finish line. Harry broke out his car keys and was determined to get a chip of the brick to take home with him, which he did, and he cherished it leaving the facility. But more importantly, before we got escorted out of the facility by the security guard. So, all in all, fantastic experience. And one thing I love about Harry was just being an awesome, awesome teammate. That's one story of many, and many we can't share. But Harry, we miss you, and we're all thinking about you.
Anybody else want to come up here and share a story or anything like that?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Keith Mason. I met Harry, I had to been 13, 14. Okay, real close. 13, 14. I grew up in Covina, he was in West Covina. Now, I know he's told this story where he did this ride and seek to find out who Stu Thompson was. Okay. We were no different, and we wanted to find out who Harry Leary was. We heard it around the neighborhood. If you went by West Covina Schwinn, Coach Schwinn, Harry's bike, his Schwinn was up in the window. And like you said, it was blinking. We finally located Harry at Crystal. I think it's in West Covina, isn't it, Linda? Crystal from the hill. Allen. Yeah. Now we thought we were someone when we were right until we see Harry. Since then, me and Harry stayed in contact. He helped me out. My racing career was up to like 77. But the first race, I don't know if it was Harry's first race that I ever raced. It was at Cortez Park. I think Alan Lane was there. And I know the San Fernando Valley had BMX races going on already. We didn't have nothing. Cortez Park had this race going on. Team Matthews, and whoever else at the time showed up. Guess what? Harry gave him a whooping on that Schwinn.
And we'd go out to dinner and just talk, and he was just such a great guy. Even when we moved out here, he'd come stay at our house with us. He'd like chop down our tree for us, and he would like make the beds and, you know, cook dinner. He was just a great, friendly friend and a brother. And he was really, I miss him a lot. And all the things that had happened to him, I just know a lot of it was, you know, damage. And we've all had a lot of damage, and we've all dealt with it in different ways. But yeah, I see his heart, and that's how I'm always going to remember him. And the way their relationship was, no matter how hard it ever got, they loved each other, and they still do, I'm sure. But that's my takeaway.
Thank you. Anybody else out there? Okay. Before we go, two things I wanted to say. I wanted to thank Nathan for coming out here from Australia. You get the #1 traveler award here. And then I want to thank Alosta Brewing for creating some Leary Lager that's back there. And maybe we'll schedule a time to have a toast sometime later today. Yeah! Thank you guys all for coming, and let's have a good time today. And you know what? Take a look at everything, and please, if you're too shy to come up here and talk, sign the book, give a memory so we can give to Harry's family. You know! Appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.
This is the Super Rad BMX podcast. Down the first straight is the cruising Cornhusker over the jump on.